Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Gold IRA Blueprint podcast. We're diving into a topic today that's generating quite a bit of buzz, especially among those of you out there with a substantial nest egg. You're looking for that extra layer of security. We're talking about gold IRAs. So if you've got, let's say, $100,000 to $5 million or more in your retirement accounts, think your IRAs, your 401ks, even savings accounts, well, you'll definitely want to pay attention. Oh, and don't forget to grab that free Gold IRA checklist. You'll find it in the show description. It'll make opening your Gold IRA a total breeze.
It's a hot topic for sure, and for good reason. Many folks nearing retirement, they're looking beyond traditional stocks and bonds. They want to explore ways to protect their wealth and maybe even pass it down to those future generations.
Okay, so let's get right into it. Why are Gold IRAs gaining so much traction right now? Especially among individuals who already have, significant savings.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't diversification something you do when you're starting out? Not when you're already sitting on a pretty sizable nest egg?
Yeah. That's a pretty common misconception, actually. You see, even if you've accumulated a substantial amount, relying solely on the stock market, well, it's like sailing without an anchor. The market, it can be incredibly volatile. Even seasoned investors can get caught off guard. Gold, on the other hand, well, gold has historically acted as what we call a safe haven asset. It holds its value even during those economic storms.
So it's like an insurance policy for your retirement portfolio, not necessarily betting on gold to skyrocket in value, but it's there to provide that stability, that peace of mind when things get a little rocky.
Precisely. That's why diversification is so crucial, regardless of your portfolio size. It's all about spreading that risk, not putting all your eggs in one basket, so to speak.
Makes sense. Now, for those who might be a bit unfamiliar, could you break down what a gold IRA actually is? I mean, is it literally like a vault filled with gold bars like we see in those movies?
Yeah, well, not quite a vault in your basement, thankfully, but you are essentially investing in physical gold. Think gold bars, coins, or other precious metals, all within a tax-advantaged retirement account. It's similar to your traditional IRA. But instead of holding paper assets like stocks and bonds, you're holding tangible assets like gold and silver.
Interesting. So you get the tax benefits of a traditional IRA, but with the added security and potential growth of gold.
Exactly. And the process of setting one up, well, it's surprisingly straightforward. You work with what's called a custodian, a company that specializes in precious metals IRAs, and they handle all the logistics, including securely storing your gold in an IRS-approved depository.
So no need to install those high security vaults in our homes. That's a relief.
Yeah.
But speaking of custodians, how do you even choose one? And what types of gold can you actually invest in?
Choosing a custodian is a critical step, and we'll definitely dive deeper into that a little later. But when it comes to those investment options, you can choose from physical gold bullion, coins, or even gold ETFs. Each has its own pros and cons, of course. And the ideal choice really depends on your individual financial goals and risk tolerance.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
Definitely not. A gold IRA is a tailored solution, not an off-the-shelf product.
All right. I'm intrigued. Before we get into the specifics of choosing a provider, though, let's talk about why someone, especially someone with substantial savings, would even consider a gold IRA.
Right.
What's the allure of gold in the retirement landscape?
That's where things get really interesting. Gold possesses unique characteristics that make it particularly attractive for retirees. For one, it's historically acted as a hedge against inflation. For example, during the stagflation of the 1970s, when inflation soared to double digits, gold prices, they increased by over 2,300%.
Wow, that's a pretty significant jump. So while other assets might lose purchasing power when inflation rises, gold tends to, hold its own, or even depreciate in value.
That's right. And that's why many investors consider gold a safe haven asset.
Okay, so gold can potentially protect against inflation. But isn't gold already part of a diversified portfolio? Why the need for a specific gold IRA?
That's a good point. While you might have some exposure to gold through ETFs or mutual funds, a gold IRA offers direct ownership and control, something that you don't get with other investment vehicles. You're literally holding the asset. It's tangible. It's not just numbers on a screen.
I see. There's like the difference between owning a rare painting and simply having a poster of it. There's a certain sense of security and tangible value that comes with owning the real deal.
Exactly. And before we move on, let me just remind everyone listening that if this is starting to pique your interest, you can grab our free Gold IRA checklist. It's down in the show description. It's packed with helpful tips to help you navigate the process, especially for those of you with, let's say, $100,000 to $5 million or more in retirement savings.
Great reminder. Now back to the benefits of gold IRAs. We've covered inflation. But what else is there?
Another key advantage is protection against market volatility. Stocks can be a roller coaster, especially during economic downturns. And even seasoned investors can get whiplash. Gold, on the other hand, it tends to hold its value, and sometimes even appreciates in value when other markets tumble.
But doesn't gold also have its own price fluctuations? Isn't it considered a volatile asset as well?
While gold prices can fluctuate in the short term, its long-term trend has been remarkably stable. And when you consider its performance during major economic crises, it's often seen as, well, as a safe haven asset. For example, during the 2008 financial crisis, when the S&P 500 plunged by over 38%, gold actually gained value.
So it's more about that steady and reliable growth over time, rather than those dramatic spikes and dips. It's like the tortoise in the race against the hare.
Exactly. Slow and steady often wins the race, especially when it comes to safeguarding your retirement nest egg.
Okay, so we've got inflation protection, stability during market volatility. What else makes gold stand out in the retirement landscape?
Well, let's not forget about the tax advantages. Gold IRAs offer the same tax benefits as traditional IRAs, allowing your investments to grow tax-deferred until retirement. This means you're not paying taxes on those gains year after year, which can significantly amplify your wealth accumulation over time.
So it's like a double win, potential for growth and tax savings. I'm sensing a theme here. Gold seems to be all about preserving and protecting what you've worked so hard to build.
You hit the nail on the head. And there's one more benefit we haven't touched on yet: diversification power. Gold, historically, it has had a low correlation with traditional markets, like stocks and bonds. This means that when stocks go down, gold might go up, or at least hold steady. It's this lack of correlation that makes it such a valuable tool for mitigating risk in a portfolio.
So it's like having a nonconformist in your group of investments, marching to the beat of its own drum. And that unpredictability, that lack of correlation, can actually be a good thing for your overall portfolio health.
Exactly. And that's why having a portion of your retirement savings in a gold IRA can add an extra layer of security and stability to your overall financial plan.
This is all starting to make a lot of sense, but I'm sure some of our listeners are thinking, this all sounds great, but what about the downsides? What about the risks?
You're right. It's important to look at both sides of the coin. A gold IRA isn't a magical solution, and there are potential risks to consider.
Well, let's get into those then. What are some of the common concerns or misconceptions that people have about gold IRAs? And how do those concerns stack up against the potential benefits that we've been discussing?
Well, one common concern is the perception that gold is a risky investment. And while it's true that gold prices can fluctuate, in the short term, its long-term track record, it tells a different story. Over the long haul, gold has consistently held its value, and they even outperformed other assets, especially during those times of economic turmoil.
So it's more about that steady and reliable growth over time, rather than like trying to time the market
Yeah,
or chase those quick profits.
exactly. It's a long-term strategy, not a get-rich-quick scheme.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the costs associated with gold IRAs? Some people believe that setting up and maintaining one is, well, prohibitively expensive. Is there any truth to that?
While there are fees involved, just like with any investment, they're often comparable to, or even lower than, the costs associated with traditional brokerage accounts. The key is transparency. Make sure you understand the fee structure up front. And don't hesitate to shop around and compare different providers.
So it's like anything else in life. Do your homework, compare prices, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Now, I'm sure some of our listeners are also wondering about scams. We've all heard those horror stories about, shady gold IRA providers. How can our listeners protect themselves and ensure they're working with a legitimate company?
You're absolutely right. The popularity of gold IRAs, sadly, it has attracted some bad actors. But there are ways to safeguard yourself. First and foremost, work only with custodians who are, well, IRS approved. This ensures that they meet specific regulatory requirements and are subject to oversight.
So look for that IRS stamp of approval. It's like checking for an organic label on your produce, right? You want to make sure you're getting the real deal.
Exactly. And do your due diligence. Research the provider thoroughly. Look for reviews from reputable sources. Check their track record. And don't be afraid to ask for references. And if something sounds too good to be true, well, it probably is. Be wary of high-pressure sales tactics or promises of guaranteed returns.
Solid advice. It's your hard-earned money, so take your time, do your research, and choose a provider you feel confident and comfortable with. And speaking of feeling confident and comfortable, let me quickly remind everyone about our free Gold IRA checklist. It's in the show description. It's a fantastic resource, especially for those of you with, let's say, $100,000 to $5 million or more in retirement savings.
Yeah.
Or considering opening a gold IRA. It walks you through the entire process and helps you avoid those common pitfalls.
It's a great resource. It can really help demystify the process.
Okay, so we've covered some of the potential downsides and concerns. Now let's shift gears and talk about choosing the right gold IRA provider. What are some of the key things that our listeners should look for when evaluating potential custodians?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, choosing the right custodian is crucial, and there are several key criteria to consider. Firstly, reputation and track record are paramount. Look for companies with a long history of serving retirees and a solid industry reputation. Experience matters, especially when you're entrusting your financial future to a provider.
So not just any company that pops up in a Google search, right? We're talking about established players with a proven track record of success.
Precisely. Next, focus on fees and transparency. Ensure the provider offers clear, upfront pricing, without any hidden fees or surprises down the line. You want a transparent breakdown of all costs involved, from setup to storage and maintenance.
Transparency is key. No one likes those hidden fees sneaking up on them. It's like finding an extra charge on your restaurant bill for bread you didn't even order.
Absolutely. Another critical aspect is storage options. Confirm that the provider offers secure, IRS-approved storage facilities. For your precious metals, these depositories should meet stringent security standards to safeguard your investments.
So we're not talking about stashing gold bars under the mattress, right? We need Fort Knox level security here.
Exactly. Secure, insured storage is non-negotiable. And finally, prioritize excellent customer support. Look for a provider with a responsive and knowledgeable team who can assist you throughout your gold IRA journey. You want ongoing support and guidance, not just a transaction.
It's like having a trusted advisor in your corner, someone who can answer your questions and provide support whenever you need it.
Absolutely. A good custodian should be a partner, not just a vendor.
Okay, so we've got reputation, transparency, storage, and customer support. Are there any other red flags our listeners should watch out for? Any deal breakers when it comes to choosing a gold IRA provider?
One thing to be wary of is high-pressure sales tactics. If a provider is pushing you to make a quick decision or promising unrealistic returns, well, that's a definite red flag. A reputable custodian will take the time to understand your needs, answer your questions thoroughly, and present you with all the facts, allowing you to make an informed decision at your own pace.
So trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Better to walk away than get caught up in a bad situation.
Exactly. And remember, there are plenty of reputable gold IRA providers out there. Take your time, do your research, and choose a custodian that aligns with your values and financial goals.
Now let's bring this all to life with some real-world examples. Can you share any stories of retirees who have benefited from gold IRAs? Real people who have experienced firsthand the advantages we've been discussing.
I love sharing real-life examples. It really does make everything so much more tangible and relatable. Let's talk about Sarah and John, a retired couple in their late 60s. They worked hard their entire lives, built a comfortable nest egg, but they were really shaken by the market volatility they saw during the 2008 financial crisis. They started to worry, and rightly so, about whether their savings would actually last throughout their retirement, especially if the market took another nosedive.
That's a fear a lot of retirees share, for sure, especially after witnessing firsthand how quickly things can change in the financial markets. So what did Sarah and John do?
Well, they decided to diversify their portfolio by allocating a portion of their savings to a gold IRA. They recognized that gold had historically held its value, especially during times of economic uncertainty, and saw it as a way to add a layer of protection to their retirement plan. And it turns out their timing was pretty good. As the market continued to fluctuate in the years following the crisis, their gold holdings provided that steady anchor they were looking for, preserving their capital and giving them peace of mind.
That's a great example of how a gold IRA can act as a buffer against market volatility, helping retirees protect their hard-earned savings. Do you have any other stories that illustrate the benefits of gold IRAs?
Of course. Let's consider George, a retired business owner who had always been a savvy investor. But as he entered retirement, he became increasingly concerned about inflation, eroding the value of his savings. He'd lived through periods of high inflation in the past, and he knew how quickly rising prices could just eat away at purchasing power.
Inflation is a silent thief, isn't it? It can really chip away at the value of your money over time, especially in retirement when you're no longer earning a steady income.
Precisely. So George decided to add a gold IRA to his retirement portfolio as a hedge against inflation. And his decision proved to be wise. As inflation ticked upward, His gold holdings held steady, effectively protecting his purchasing power. He was able to maintain his lifestyle and enjoy his retirement without constantly worrying about rising prices.
Those are fantastic examples of how gold IRAs can provide real value for retirees. It's all about finding that balance, isn't it? Protecting your assets while also planning for the future.
Exactly. And remember, these are just a couple of examples. There are countless stories of retirees who have found that gold IRAs align perfectly with their retirement goals and risk tolerance.
This has been such an informative deep dive into the world of gold IRAs. But before we wrap up, I want to remind our listeners that we have a fantastic resource available for them, our free Gold IRA checklist. You can find the link in the episode description. It's specifically designed for those of you with, let's say, $100,000 to $5 million or more in retirement savings, who are considering opening a Gold IRA. It'll walk you through the process, step by step, helping you make informed decisions every step of the way.
It's a great tool for anyone looking to explore the world of gold IRAs.
Now for our final thoughts. I want to turn it back to you. We've covered a lot of ground today. The benefits, the risks, the process of choosing a provider. What's the key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
As we've seen, gold IRAs can be a powerful tool for retirees who are seeking to diversify their portfolios, hedge against inflation, and potentially safeguard their wealth for the long term. But it's crucial to remember that no investment is one size fits all. What works for Sarah, John, or George might not be the best fit for everyone's specific situation. It's essential to consider your individual financial goals, risk tolerance, and overall retirement plan.
So it's not about jumping on the gold IRA bandwagon. It's about making an informed decision that aligns with your unique circumstances and goals.
Precisely, and that's where seeking professional guidance comes in. Before making any decisions, I highly recommend consulting with a qualified financial advisor who specializes in gold IRAs. They can assess your needs, analyze your portfolio, and help you determine if a gold IRA is the right fit for your retirement plan.
It's like getting a personalized roadmap for your retirement journey. You wouldn't set off on a cross-country trip without a map, right? And the same principle applies to your financial future.
Absolutely. A financial advisor can help you navigate the complexities of gold IRAs, choose the right provider, and make informed decisions that align with your long-term objectives.
Great advice. And to recap for our listeners, we've explored the ins and outs of gold IRAs today, from the benefits and potential risks to choosing the right provider and those real-world success stories. And if you're intrigued by the idea of adding some gold to your retirement portfolio, don't forget to check out our free Gold IRA checklist in the show description. It's a great place to start.
Knowledge is power. The more you understand about gold IRAs, the better equipped you'll be to make an informed decision.
Couldn't said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of gold IRAs. We hope you found it insightful and informative. And until next time, happy